Welcome back to T0 Endurance Webinars. I'm your host, Fireman Rob. We have a great guest today. Again, we've got a lot of weeks of great guests coming on here. It's all about inspiring, focusing, and getting you to endure this time. Go to iwishIwasracing.com to sign up for all of them. But today from London, or no, well, close to London in Great Britain, whatever it is. We have Laura. Laura, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Rob. Thanks for having me on. That video was really cool. I'm like all fired up and pumped up to go now. Yeah. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, a little bit. I am in the UK, and I know, like, in terms of America, the UK is very small. So I'm about 3 hours north of London, if that
3
helps.
hours north of London.
Yeah.
Yeah, our geographical abilities here in the US are not that well.
Well, don't ask me to name any of the states in the US and where they are either. So we'll just call
that was the last
there.
question I was going to ask here.
Oh, damn. Right, I'll get the Google out now. Give me some time.
Well, we were talking a little before, and just the story of this time that has been the stay at home, the quarantine time, how you got from where you were to home. Kind of give us a backstory of because you're usually down in New Zealand, and so you had shoulder surgery just recently. So kind of give us the story. It's been crazy for you.
Yeah, I mean, I have that crazy kind of travel life. I'm a bit of a nomad, as most people know, and I spend 6 months in New Zealand in the summer in the Southern Hemisphere, and then 6 months in Spain. But I just started working with a coach, Julie Dibbons, who's based out of Boulder. So we had a 2-week training camp in February in Vegas, of all places, and then I was going to go to Boulder for 3 weeks after that. So I left New Zealand middle of February, planning for 5 weeks in the US on a bit of a training camp. And then things all kind of went a bit crazy after that. So I refractured my collarbone, which I'd broken last year at the beginning of February, pretty randomly. So, but I decided I'd still go out to Vegas and still go to the US because I wanted to be with the squad and meet the squad and meet Julie and stuff. So still traveled to Vegas, and we got to Boulder and had a scan on my shoulder when I got to Boulder, and it showed that it wasn't healing properly because we'd left it to heal naturally, which meant so we decided I was going to have it replated again. And we were sort of making various decisions about whether that was in the US. Do I go back to New Zealand? Do I go back to Spain, where I had it originally done? And then everything else kicked off, and borders started getting closed and flights were stopping. So we ended up I had the surgery in Boulder, and I was going to stay and rehab actually in Boulder with Julie, and my strength coach, Kate Leigler, is based there as well. But then all of a sudden, just flights were stopping, borders were stopping, and I was on visas. So we had a bit of a kind of quick think. And it turned out I couldn't actually get back to New Zealand because they'd already shut down borders, and they were only letting in permanent residents, and I have a residence visa but not permanent resident. And then in the US I was only on a ESTA, so I had like a 90-day period, I think. And whilst I still had sort of plenty of days left at the time, who knew what was going to happen? And God forbid that I stay one day over my visa in the US, because then I'm like blacklisted forever. So we did a quick search on flights, and it was decided the best option was to come back to the UK and come and be with family, because I think that's probably important at this time as well. I mean, I haven't lived in the UK for 13 years, so it's been a bit of a shock coming back. And also, like we said earlier, I packed for 5 weeks away from New Zealand for a training camp, and then in theory going back to New Zealand, and didn't diverted to the UK. So not that it makes much difference. We live in triathlon clothes for most of our time anyway, but that's all I have. So,
people look at you strange as you come in your tri-suit into the grocery store, right?
Yeah, that's it. I think where I'm living is a quite a small village in quite a rural place, but obviously, everyone tends to know everybody, and even though we're in a shutdown mode, I think the rumors have been murmuring around the village that who's this runner that we keep seeing out and about. She's not one of the locals. So yeah.
I love it. I love it. So you've been kind of staying busy, just getting everything done there. Now, what are some of the workouts that you've been doing at, in essence, your new home for a while?
Yeah, so I mean, for one, I'm really lucky, and one of the my sister offered to let me come and live with her, which was great, and it's been really good. I have a bike trainer here, so that's been good. So I was just able to set the bike up on the turbo trainer. When I knew I was coming back to the UK, I panic bought a treadmill. So got that shit sent here because I wasn't quite sure what the restrictions were going to start with or go to, and with the British weather. And then she's actually got quite a decent sort of weights and gym equipment. So from that aspect, I am really, really lucky. And I guess for me, training, it's really weird. Life's been relatively the same. I spend most of my day doing my training sessions, and then everything else that goes around being a professional triathlete. The training as well, I guess, has been, because I had the shoulder surgery, we're now sort of 5 weeks ago. I was in a rehab phase and a building phase of getting back to fitness. So that's what I'm doing. Yep. That's where I am. So we've just, I guess, had the opportunity to do it properly and patiently, in terms of, if the world was as we knew, or used to know what was normal, and there was a race on the horizon, like I was planning to do Challenge Roth. We'd have probably felt this sort of pressure to get me up to speed, to get me back fit, to get me into race shape a lot quicker than now we have the opportunity to. And it's killing me because she's putting the reins on. She's like, no, you're going to stick at this pace and you're going to stick at this heart rate because you don't need to overstress things. Right. But yeah, so lots of time on Zwift indoor riding, learning to love that. I've done, I do a mix of, I do still do some runs outside. We can go out for one bit of exercise a day. Oh, nice. And sort of stay relatively local, so no driving or anything. So, but again, lucky where I am, we're by a river and there's sort of lanes where I can run. But a mix of running on the treadmill and outside, and then strength work and stuff like that in the gym to keep me busy. So yeah, that's the sort of training that we've been doing.
Nice. So now going back in time here, you weren't always a pro triathlete. I looking back, and I had to actually watch a video on what netball was. I had no idea what netball was. I'm reading your bio and I'm going, okay, she was a swimmer. I know what that is. Now, hockey, is that ice hockey or is that field hockey?
Field hockey, very much field hockey. Yeah.
I was like, ice hockey. All right.
No.
And then netball.
I'm impressed. You watched a video. Yeah,
I did. I was confused. I thought it was either handball, and then I was like, oh, it could be basketball. And it's like, you guys are so talented that you didn't even need a backboard.
No, it's amazing. I think when I try and explain it to Americans or people or countries that don't play it, so it's mainly played in Commonwealth countries. The closest I get to is it's like basketball but without the backboard, and you can't dribble it. It's the very basic stripped down rules of netball. And
then you've got certain places that you can go to, and so
So you have seven players on a team, and you're restricted to different areas of the court where those players can go depending on what position you play.
And so you did that, and you ran in college, is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But awesome. short distance running, so track. Yeah.
Okay.
Track running, 300 meters, 400 meters, 800s at a push, 400 meter hurdles. In fact, I remember it was funny with the group I used to train with in Manchester in the UK. We were all sort of 400 meter, 800 meter runners on the track. Yeah. And on a Monday night, I think we had to do a long run, which was 45 minutes. And it used to, we would moan like anything, going, this is so long. Why do we have to do this? And now I, if I look at my training and it says a 45-minute run, I'm like, oh, short run today.
Sure. Yeah. You go from the short run to now, what is it? You have the 5th fastest time for a British woman in an Ironman. That's pretty impressive to go from there to to that. And how did you, back in 2014 was the first year you became a pro, but before that you were an amateur, and you won maybe a few world championships?
Yeah, so I started the sport as a complete beginner. So when I was living in the UK, didn't have a clue what triathlon was. When I moved to Australia with my corporate job, I then discovered the sport of triathlon because everyone does it over there, and it's such an active lifestyle. And started as a complete beginner. I think, my first bike was a hybrid road mountain bike with the flat bar, and I had my trainers, and that's what I used for my first race.
It didn't have a basket though, right?
Not quite. I think I did. I think it might have had it might have had the spokey dokies on the wheels and the reflectors and all of that stuff. But I'm not sure I had a bell, and maybe the mud guards as well. I'm not sure. But yeah,
you should go back to that.
I should have had the basket. It would have been good for your nutrition and stuff.
Oh, it's like a total, yeah.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, and just started as a complete beginner. Started with sprint distances, but just as we all know, you get hooked into the sport, and I think from having always done sport growing up, it just suddenly filled this void, or filled the sporting space of my life when I was working. And then just started sort of, I guess, improving, and you get addicted because you can see yourself improving, and you start just racing as an age grouper. And yeah, I was fortunate to win 4 world titles as an amateur over, was it sprint, 2 at Olympic distance, and then 1 at the 70.3 in 2013. I think that was when the world champs were in Vegas.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
that's awesome. That's the big thing with this, what we're doing with these webinars is trying to really motivate individuals. And I think a lot of people get intimidated by triathlons because they look at it and they go, "Oh my gosh, a full distance! That's what a triathlon is." And like you're saying, you started at a sprint distance. What would you say is one of your biggest words of advice for somebody who wants to just get into triathlon, who maybe doesn't understand how impactful it can be on your life?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you definitely don't have to do a full distance or an Ironman. I mean, a little side story, because I'm good at going off on tangents. When I started as a complete beginner, and I was doing this beginner's course, and I saw all these people training, and they were doing longer sessions and bigger sessions. I was like, what are they training for? And they said, oh yeah, they're doing the Ironman. And I was like, right, sign me up. So I signed up and did an Ironman in my first year as a beginner. You don't need to do this. This is what I'm saying. But after I'd done that, I went back to doing sprint distances, and did then the next 3 or 4 years of sprints and Olympics. The big thing for me when I was getting into the sport as a complete beginner and a newbie was finding a group to train with. And that's the thing I would say for anyone thinking about getting into the sport as a beginner: find a group, whether that's a triathlon club or just a running group or a bike group or a swimming group. You could all be separately. For me, I was in Sydney, Australia, and I actually went on, good old Google and just typed in beginners triathlon. And there happened to be a training group. It wasn't a triathlon club, but a training group called Bondi Fit. And he and Spot Anderson, who ran it, he did swim, bike, run sessions morning and night, every day of the week. So there was so many options to do it. And it was just a really big social group as well. And I made some great friends. There was friends that we all did the beginners course together. We did our first Ironman together. And, some of those friends they're still my best friends from those years of starting the sport. They're the ones I keep in touch with as I'm now all over the world. So I think definitely, if you're thinking about getting into it, it's getting that kind of community, that sport, that group around you, and joining other people to have fun whilst you're training.
Kind of dovetailing on that, what would you say is one of the things that you love most about not just the endurance community, but triathlons, like what it gives to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that first experience that I had in such a supportive group and a group of friends, and it became that the training was your social life as well, because you knew your friends were going to be there at 5 a.m. in the morning in the dark with the bike lights on, or at the swimming pool, and then you'd go to work and you sit at your desk, and then you knew in the evening you're going to see all your friends again running around the track or whatever the session was.
Right.
And I think that gave me, and because I came from a team background, with netball and hockey, I think I thrived. I loved that atmosphere that the triathlon, whilst when we race, it's kind of your own race and you're doing it on your own, but the community environment, the spirit, that aspect of triathlon where there's just so many people on the same course, on the same day. And I think what I love about it now is we're able to travel the world and live in different places, train in different places, race in different places. I've met so many people from all walks of life with all stories to tell, all with how sport or triathlon has changed their lives for the better, or some for the worse when they get too addicted. But on the whole, it's for the better. And I just love meeting the locals. I think coming from an age group where I love meeting age group athletes. I love staying in the homestay families and finding out about how they're involved in the sport. And I think it's something that we all want community. We all want to feel involved and part of something. And I think that's what triathlon does for a lot of people.
And it's interesting because like in this time of challenge and kind of this strife for some people who just signed up this year for their first ever Ironman or a half Ironman, they're sitting there going, do I endure this pain and go on next year or try it? Or somebody is like, oh, I'm going to qualify for Kona this year. What would you say to those people that kind of give them a sense of, why should I keep going?
I think the why in that is really important. And I think for me, what I've realized over this past few weeks is actually I just love the training as well. And it's part of just feeling fit and healthy and not just sort of keeping my body active, keeping my mind active as well. And so, yes, don't get me wrong, I want to be on a start line as much as anyone else does, and I want to be racing, and partly because you want to see your friends around the world and you want to go and catch up with everybody that you see year after year, and you want to meet new people. But I think it's a case of just thinking back to those original why do you want to get into the sport? And if it was to feel a bit better about yourself and healthy and change your lifestyle, then you can still do that in this current situation. It just might be finding a slightly different way to do it. I think just to take that step back, almost treat it as a chance to work on weaknesses, that in that normal world when we're into those race, and for both of us coming into sort of summer in the Northern Hemisphere, we're going into that race season. And before we know it, it's races, and then it's off season, but we don't really have that off season because you juggle the other things of family and work. So I think now's a really good time to work on things that we wouldn't prioritize in a normal year. So things like core strength and stability, and you don't need to have a home gym to do that. There's plenty of body weight exercises and movement and flexibility you can do without that. And I think just whilst it's disappointing that your goal for a race, and whether that's your first triathlon or just whether it is Kona, is now probably taken away and that's out of your control, just take a step back to reset, treat it like just a long sustained off season, and work on just keeping that base level of fitness going, work on those other skills that might you probably ignore the rest of the year, and just get back to sort of thinking like remembering the good things of why you do it. And it's that healthy feeling active. You still get the endorphins from the training. But you can have a few glasses of wine at night because you haven't got a race coming up.
I like the sleeping in part.
Or the sleeping in part. This is the other thing. Yeah, there's no 5 a.m. swim squad to get to you on your own terms.
Exactly. I love that because it's a common theme that we've heard from pro triathletes to Graham Fraser, who is a race director, and Bob Babbitt, of that, that why, but then also in this time, make it an opportunity. And I love that that's like that common thread is it's such a great time to have the opportunity to be better.
Yeah. And the other thing is, if you don't want to train, doesn't matter. Don't worry. Don't feel like you have to be going on all these like indoor training rides, or you have to be doing you have to learn a new skill, or you have you should be using your time. If you don't feel it because it's just you're not in the right place, that's fine as well. Like, just be kind to yourself at the moment and be kind to others, and just, yeah, deep breaths and do what feels right. Do what feels right.
I love that. I love that. I love your quote, "Don't die wondering." That is I read that and I was like, "Oh, I'm going to use that." Because
Yeah,
that's
please
so
do.
it's so true, because it's, especially with all the things that you were an officer in the British Army.
I was, yeah, for a
Oh, that's
year, just for a
awesome.
year, yeah.
That's right.
It
Hey,
was,
that's the how was that?
yeah, it was still one of the best years of my life, I will say. The things I learnt and the experiences I had during that year still probably live with me today. And probably I don't iron as much as I used to do in that year. That is one thing I don't carry forward with me. I haven't quite got the creases down the front of my trousers anymore. But yeah, no, it was absolutely incredible year and opportunity to experience.
What
Yeah.
translated from that into your life? Like, I know when I was in the military, one of the things that I did, I appreciated everything that I had more, and I appreciated the little moments. What was the one thing that you would say that you got from being in the military, or maybe many
Yeah.
things?
Oh, I mean, yes, loads and loads of things, a lot of subtleties, and then a few. I think the thing for me, one thing that stuck out. So, when I was in for a year, it was after I've left high school and before I went to university. So it was a specific 1 year commission. And so you were basically 17, 18 years of old, 8 years old. We went to Royal Military Academy Sandhurst and did a 3 week officer training course. Now, people going into the army for careers do a 48 week. So we had a
Right.
hugely condensed 3 weeks of hell, I would call it. And then we were sort of sent out into the real world. And I think so. The thing I learned was that I was going out and I was in charge of 30 or 40 men and women soldiers, at an age of 18 years of old age. Also, as a female in a electrical and mechanical engineering regiment.
Oh,
And it was the fact that on paper you have a superior rank being an officer, but
right.
jack shit compared to these guys who have been in there for years and years
Yep.
and years. And I think it was having the respect of them, or giving
Mhm.
them the respect, and admitting that, yeah, that I don't know everything. You guys know much more, and I want you guys to give me that information and teach me. And yes, then at the end of the day, I have to make that decision, and that's the rank on paper and the hierarchy. But I respect all your years of experience, and this is a team, and the team element of that and how the army works was fantastic as well. So that's giving the respect to people. I think has always stuck with me, regardless of rank on paper, age, ability, just that being open and willing to learn from others as well, and respecting that.
I love that. It's such a, life experience is a huge thing, and definitely you've had a lot of life experience and in many different areas. I think that takes on a whole new meaning when you get into something like sport and what that brings into your life. And definitely triathlon has done that for a lot of people. What would you say is your top 3 races that you've ever been to?
Oh, okay. As in race locations
The ones
and
that you
events,
love
as in
the most to go
atmosphere.
to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Challenge Roth, hands
Yeah.
down. Number one. Just amazing. We both know that.
Yep. Oh yeah.
So love Challenge Roth. Challenge Wanaka in New Zealand, particularly when it was a full distance. It's a half distance now. It's still fantastic because it's just so beautiful and stunning there. So those would be in the 2, and then I have a 3-way tie for third, because I can't decide because I'm hopeless. Ironman New Zealand and Ironman
Okay.
Australia,
Yep.
because they are special places in my heart. But I would say, if you want a bucket list race which is pretty unique and special, Ironman Wales is very close to
Yeah.
the experience you get in Roth. It's mental.
Wow.
It's really it. I'm going to offend a few people. It's not quite Roth. It's not Roth. Roth is another level.
Yeah.
But Ironman Wales is an incredibly special place and an incredible race. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, I've never even I've seen that one, but I've never like
Oh
heard
my God,
the
you would love it. It would be brutal for you because the
most races are.
they are, but I'm thinking about your run, and there is not one element of flat road to run in Wales. It's either all up or
Or all
down,
done.
round cobbles, round the town. You go through the centre of town. It's like running through the middle of Roth when everyone's out and
Oh, it's all cut. Yeah.
like on the tables, but you're running
Yep.
around this little seaside town of Tenby. All the pubs are there. Everyone's out drinking beer. They just get drunk and drunker through the day. But it's just such a great community atmosphere. But the thing that the start in Wales is incredibly, it's in a place called Tenby, which is a small seaside town. And you start on the beach, and behind the beach is cliffs. And you have this zigzag run. It's a 1 kilometer run from the beach to transition for starters. And the first half of that is zigzag up the cliff face. But I tell you what, when you stand on the beach on race morning, I get goosebumps now listening it, and you look back at the cliffs and it's just packed with spectators. The zigzag is packed with spectators. The whole 1 kilometer run was 10 people deep from the beach to transition. No kidding. It was, I've never experienced anything like it, and it just blew my mind. And then the bike course, it's tough. It's through rolling hills. There's some sort of equivalent to Solarberg, I would say, in terms of not quite as narrow, but there's people on the hills and they're a lot steeper and you do it twice as well. And then the run course is just mental. Like I said, there's no flat, but it's all the way weaving in and out of this town, and it's
so
just
good.
it's not, it's not one of those courses you go for a fast time, but the atmosphere and the experience and the locals is definitely up there. Challenge, just behind Challenge Roth. So yeah.
See, that's awesome. They
would love you there as well. You need to come and do that.
Well, I'm gonna have to try that. I'm gonna have to get my biking a little better.
Yeah.
I'll have to be out of my basement and actually on a bike sometime here soon. So I wanted to go into kind of a lot of people always ask for pro triathletes, how do you get that elite mental mindset? Because it's something to trigger yourself into wanting to race. An Ironman distance is a long ways to race, and to have that mindset to be able to be racing that entire time. How do you do that? What are some of the tips that you would give to or do you just blank out?
I don't know. What do the other pros say? Maybe I should take some tips from them.
No cheating.
Gosh, it's really hard, and I would definitely say that I don't think all the pros get it right all the time. There are some that are a lot better than others. I think there's part of it is an ability to just be constantly wanting to be better and wanting to be more, and that's a double-edged sword, because often you find that you get to the end of a race and you might have had a great result, but you don't feel the pleasure in it because you've already put your next goalpost further ahead, and you're already looking forward at the next goal and how can I improve and how can I be better, and you don't take time to necessarily give yourself a bit of credit. But I think during a race and trying to be competitive for that whole time is really having the ability to stay present and focus on that moment that you're in, and being the best athlete you can be in that moment. So whether that's in the swim, on the bike, on the run, whatever stage of the race it is, but for me, I can always refer to it on the bike with not being a swimmer, but on the bike, it's kind of like, am I doing everything now at this moment with this pedal stroke, which is getting the most out of my body for the type of terrain, with what the weather's doing, with that sort of thing. And so it's being able to, I think, focus on yourself and what you can control, but you can't just say, I'm going to do my own race. I don't think, like, you have to be able to focus on your own race and control your own race, but also have half an eye and half a brain assessing what else is happening in the race, because you do have to make decisions that might be, actually, my race plan's got to go out the window, because if I don't go with this attack, or if I don't go with this, with this surge, then that might be the game over. So I think there's that. It's hard. It's sort of focus on yourself,
Wow,
but have this an awareness of others as well. And I think that's probably kind of along those lines. And go on. Yeah.
No, I was gonna say that focusing on the where you are now. I think that works for so many aspects of triathlon because, you can train all you want, you can go as hard as you can, and just like you're saying, the day cannot show up like you wanted it to. And so whatever you are in that moment, you have to push to be able to go beyond that. And I think that's such a powerful statement.
Yeah. And, and it's also about, just again, it's sort of going back to those, even for us, why are we doing it? What's driving us? And pulling on those feelings and values to get you through, particularly if things aren't going well. It's like, how do you pull yourself out of that? And sometimes it is going back to being so much as like, as an age grouper, when I was racing, why was I doing that? Well, has that changed? No, I'm just racing in a different category and I want to be up there. But today I'm just going to have to focus on getting to the next aid station like everyone else, sort of thing. Yeah.
So tell us more. So you've given us so much. I love it. Tell us, I wanted to, where can people contact you at? And there's a possibility that if they send you a message that they could find some discounts to your...
They can, yeah, the cryptic world of pro sponsorship. So yes, I do have a Facebook page, a personal and a professional one, but probably the best place is Instagram, really. So that's LM or at LMSid on Instagram, on Twitter as well at LMSiddall. And yes, I do have quite a lot of discounts I can give around bikes, wetsuits, wheels, things like that. I kind of like show some of the sponsors.
These sponsors.
Often we're not allowed to publicly say what those discounts are. So best thing is for people to always, I will always say people can always reach out and send me messages and questions if they have about anything, but they can always as well ask if I can give them any help and support with certain bits of equipment. Goggles as well, yeah.
And they might as well go on and follow you too, because you have a lot of, follow you, find out your journey, because there's a lot of great things that you've told us today. A lot of things, great things in your future. Definitely. If you look at all the things that you've accomplished in your past and where you've gotten to now, I think a lot of people should follow you. And definitely thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it. And best of luck.
That's been great. No, thank you. Thank you so much. And I can't wait to we can do this face to face again in person. And again, like I said,
in Wales.
Maybe in Wales, that's right. But yeah, people, please follow me, but reach out, send me a message, ask questions. I'll always get back to you if it's, whatever questions you have and however I can help people. So that's what I love about the sport as well. So yeah, thanks for having me on.
Thanks so much and have a good one. And thanks for coming in and tuning in today. If you want to go to iwishIwasracing.com, you can find out more about future webinars that we have coming up. Until then, see you next time. Thanks.